So actually, of course, I was not quite done with the prologue, so I may say a few more things about this. This will be um, part two of Heracles Menomenos. In the prologue, Amphitryon gives his opening monologue, and then Megara comes out to lament the loss of her husband. Again, now she's under the assumption, quite a logical assumption, that if a human being went into death, he's not coming back. And so, but Amphitryon still shows hope, and he makes a moral issue out of it, and he says, the bravest man is he who ever relieth on his hopes, but despair is the mark of a coward. So he presents one attitude toward bravery, toward courage, but in a moment Megara is going to present another. So that actually is the end of the prologue proper, because as we saw structurally with the other tragedies that we have seen, the the entrance of the chorus, the parados, represents the beginning of the play proper. So that's that delimits the prologue, sets the prologue off from the first episode. So the chorus comes out lamenting the feebleness of old age. Of course, Amphitryon is a geezer, and then Lycus comes out. Lycus, the tyrant, the tyrannos, who has seized the throne and has killed the king Creon. And he comes out and gloats, and he is a euhemerist of the worst sort. Remember that term from Plutarch? He comes in and denies any divine origin to Heracles and belittles everything that he did. After all, he says, what was the fine exploit thy husband achieved, if he did kill a hydra in a marsh, or that monster of Nemea, which he caught in a snare, for all he says, strangled to death in his arms? So he says he probably used normal means to get these to do these deeds. So it was nothing great. Amphitryon, however, defends his son's honor and tells the details of some of his deeds, especially the fourth labor about the centaurs, and defends his use of the bow too. We'll see this in the Iliad, how the use of the bow is sneered at as unmanly. But he says, no, so what if he uses a bow? Lycus, however, ends any lightheartedness of Amphitryon by making the announcement that Heracles' kids are going to be, the children of Heracles are going to be destroyed, are going to be burned alive, and so prepare for death. The chorus stands up verbally to Lycus, but they are old men too, and this is the reason for their opening lament on the trauma of getting old, because they realize that they can't stand up to this younger king Lycus. And this is where Megara picks up on that from the chorus and gives us a different attitude toward courage, a counter to what Amphitryon has said about despair being the mark of a coward. Death, she says, I count a dreadful fate, but the man who wrestles with necessity I esteem a fool. There may be a point at which hope in a hopeless situation is in fact foolish hope, and is in fact an equally hubristic, an equally wrong, morally suspect at any rate, wrestling with necessity, as she said, a denial of certain realities. Okay, so we don't want our response to be merely that. We don't want our hope to be merely foolish hope. Okay. The choral ode that comes next. Now remember, there's a choral ode between each episode, so that constitutes the first episode. The choral ode between the first episode and the second then is a choral ode outlining the 12 labors of Heracles, and you'll notice that they're in different order from those of Apollodorus. The first one is the Nemean lion. Okay, that's the same. But second, we have the centaurs. Okay, now that's different. Third, the hind, the dappled hind with horns of gold. Okay. Fourth, the steeds of Diomedes. Okay, that was a different position. Um, then, crossing Hebrus' silver stream, number 5, he still toiled on to perform the hests of the tyrant of Mycenae, and he kills Cycnus, Cycnus the robber. That's not in, Apollodorus does mention it, but it's later, after he tells of the 12 labors. Number 6, the minstrel maids in their orchards to the west, that's the Hesperides. So this is pushed way back in the chronology for Euripides. The Hesperides is number 6. But actually that number kind of works because it's a parallel to the number 12, which is going into the afterlife, going into the underworld. But the Hesperides is another form of the afterlife, and so that occurs at the end of the first half of the labors. Okay. Then number 7, the Pirates. Okay, no mention of the Pirates. No mention of Major League Baseball at all, in fact, in Apollodorus. Number 8, he sought the home of Atlas. Okay, that's the pillars of Heracles. Number 9, then he went through the ways of the heaving Euxine against the mounted host of the Amazons. That is the girdle of Hippolyta. On Lerna's murderous hound, that's the Hydra. Okay, so number 10. Hydra's number 10. It was number 2 earlier. And that kind of makes sense because then that gives Heracles the poison blood much earlier. And then number 11, wherewith he slew the shepherd of Erythea, a monster with 3 bodies. That is the giant Geryon. And then finally, to Hades' house of tears he hath now sailed. Okay, after Cerberus, although he doesn't mention anything about Cerberus. Okay, and so Megara is treating that like a death, right? When somebody goes to the underworld, that is death. Okay, so that takes us up to episode 2. So this is a good place to stop. And I thank you for journeying with me into the underworld and beyond. And we'll see you on the other side in episode 2.